there's three divisions of karma presented, traditionally coming out of, deep Vedic culture, translated upwards through the Upanishads and then forward from there. That first third regarding your personal actions is the Sanskrit word is adhyatmika, or things that you properly do yourself. Then the second third. Now, third is a little bit abstract. It's not a mathematical formula, but we're talking about three sources of karma, and the second source is called adhibautika, or stuff that other people do to you. And the third source is said to be adidaivika, which for which an accurate translation would be acts of God, but we could say environmental, ecological circumstance. And for the most part, in contemporary yoga culture, for two reasons, I think. One, the influence of, or the over-influence of Vedanta and Neo-Vedanta in the modern era, but also the dovetailing influence of neoliberalism in mainly Western, but now globalized political culture, has really drawn us to focus primarily on adhyatmika karma as being the central force, that you yourself are responsible. Now, this one relationship that I want to, sort of draw out, which I don't want to toot my horn, but I don't see a lot of other people making this connection. And I think it's really important to be made is that the self-responsibility of the Neo-Vedantic worldview, that everything comes back to the self, everything comes back to consciousness, to some property of agency. And of course, that agency is shared by all things and it connects you to all things. And that's really nice. But the focus, the way it's functionally used, is to tell people that they are ultimately responsible for their experience. And sometimes people go so far as to think or to feel that they are only or solely responsible for their experience, or that the world is a projection of their consciousness, or a number of other very grandiose, sentiments like that. Mm-hmm. On one hand, this has, as I say, it comes straight from the echoes of the Upanishads. But on the other hand, it's also what you see in the Lululemon Manifesto. And these things dovetail. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the Lululemon Manifesto, basically we have 100 or so statements that say you are ultimately responsible for your condition and for your happiness. And in all of those 100 or so aphorisms, there's not one mention of structural inequality or the effects of capitalism, or what's happened to the environment since the industrial era, or what the legacy of colonialism is in terms of racial oppression. I think that the Upanishads make this incredible break with an earlier history of believing that one is completely enmeshed in natural cycles and simply must broker the best deal that one can with it. And then with the Upanishadic voice, we have this notion that, the individual, the independent self, has a lot of mysteries to investigate. And I think we're very attracted to that message within yoga culture because we are already embedded within a neoliberalism that places the individual at the center of society, that responsibilizes the self, that says you as an individual are the fundamental unit of society. If you change your mind and your attitude and your heart, then your reality will change. Well, that's only true for people who have certain privileges. So self-development in the form of yoga pants and yoga mats that are being manufactured by people who don't have time to afford to do yoga. And so I think there's a significant imbalance going on in how yoga philosophy, especially in the globalized or the West globalizing, is presented as being primarily focused on individual consciousness. So coming back to the clot in my vein, do I believe that I caused that? Well, I believe that it happened within something that I call my body for many, many different reasons. And yeah, I made choices that probably exacerbated it, specifically the choice to travel and, but I don't push it much farther than that. It could just as easily have not happened. It also apparently happens statistically more often to men, and more often to men who are over 5'10". Now I happen to be 6'3". There's something about simply having a tall body that makes one more susceptible to blood clotting in the lower appendages, and which kind of makes sense. It's like there's a longer way for the blood to travel. My peripheral circulation is going to be slower than the person who's 5'2". So am I the cause of my genetics? I don't know. I mean, where does that get me? Where does it get me to really say, I caused my blood clot? I think it can help me examine my life a little bit more closely, but it can also put me into a pretty self-obsessed mode.